morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, distinguished shareholders. Before we commence the deliberation on the resolutions of the meeting agenda, we have a pre-agenda item to deal with. I would like to draw the attention of the shareholders to the fact that the audited financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2020 and notice of annual general meeting were published within the prescribed time frame. However, after the publication of the audited financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2020, the 2020 financial year annual reports and accounts were circulated to the shareholders after the prescribed 21 days before the meeting. In light of this disclosure and to cure the said delayed circulation of the 2020 financial year annual report and accounts, I hereby call on a shareholder to move the following motion. That shareholders approve that the company's 11th annual general meeting should proceed as published in notice of the meeting. Will someone please rise and move the motion? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nona. Will someone please second the motion? Thank you. Thank you, sir. Will those in favor of the motion please signify by raising their hands? Okay. Will those against the motion please signify by raising their hands? Okay. With that, I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried.
On the 8th of June 2021, the Corporate Affairs Commission approved the convening of the company's 11th annual general meeting to be held by proxies to consider only ordinary business. In accordance with the CAC's approved guidelines thereon and subject to the directives of the federal and Lagos state government on the maximum allowable number of persons at any gathering, i.e. 50 persons. As such, this annual general meeting will therefore be conducted by proxies.
Based on the CAC approval to convene this annual general meeting by way of proxies, the company registrar received executed proxy forms sent in by the shareholders. I now call on Mr. Adeola, who is a representative of the company registrars, to present the proxy report, which is a disclosure of members in attendance in person or by proxy, for the purpose of determining that this meeting is quorate. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, directors of UBN Property Company Plc. Good morning, distinguished shareholders. Good morning, regulators that are present and those virtually. For this annual general meeting, we received 21 proxies for 53.66% of the company's share capital. Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Registrar, in addition to the members present, how many do you have present?
We have 8 shareholders present. So
ideally, you should be giving us the numbers in proxy and in person.
Okay.
For quorum purposes.
So we received 21 proxies. We also have 8 shareholders present. So we have a quorum. Total attendance 29. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. We can now move to the items on the meeting agenda. Good morning, distinguished shareholders, members of the Board of Directors, ladies and gentlemen. I am indeed delighted to welcome you all to the 11th annual general meeting of our company, UBN Property Company Plc. To save time, most of the motions on the agenda will be moved by me or at my instance, and thereafter, I will call on seconders from the floor before the motion is put to the meeting and the vote is taken. We will entertain comments and questions from shareholders on the financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2020, which I will lay before you in due course, and to which answers will be provided before we proceed to the next item. Before we proceed, I crave your indulgence to introduce the representatives of the professional advisors and regulators who are with us physically. The following are being recognized: the chairman of the Statutory Audit Committee. Thank you. Representative of Ernst & Young, the independent auditors. Thank you. DCL Corporate Services Limited, the board appraiser consultant. Thank you very much. Securities and Exchange Commission. Thank you very much. NASD PLC. Corporate Affairs Commission. Thank you very much, Madam. Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. And our registrar, Cardinal Stone Registrars Limited. Thank you very much. The registers of directors' holdings and attendance at board meetings are available for inspection during this meeting in compliance with the provisions of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. Before we proceed with the issues of the day, I also would like to introduce to you members of the board of directors of your company. Mrs. Obiako Akwiwunwadike, okay. Mr. Remy Kolariwa, thank you, sir. Mrs. Olajumoke Odulaja, thank you. To my immediate right is the managing director of your company, Mr. Tosin Oshikoya. To my immediate left is the company secretary, Mr. Shomuyuwa Shonubi. And I am Mr. Emeka Okonkwo, the chairman of your company. I will now call on the company secretary to read the notice convening this meeting.
Notice is hereby given that the 11th Annual General Meeting of UBN Property Company will be held in the Auditorium Stallion Plaza, 9th floor, 36 Marina, Lagos on Tuesday, 29th June 2021 at 11 a.m. to transact the following business. To receive and adopt the company's audited financial statements for the financial year ended 31st December 2020, together with the reports of the directors, auditor, board appraiser, and statutory audit committee thereof. To declare a dividend for the financial year ended 31st December 2020, to elect and re-elect directors, to authorize directors to fix the remuneration of the auditor, to disclose remuneration of the managers of the company, to elect members of the statutory audit committee. Notes: in compliance with the public safety directives of the federal government of Nigeria and Lagos state government on mass or public gatherings, on account of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Corporate Affairs Commission's guidelines on holding annual general meetings of public companies using proxies, attendance at this meeting shall be by way of proxies. Shareholders were advised that the meeting will be streamed live via a link to be, that was circulated by the registrars, and voting at the meeting shall be through the proxies whose names are provided below. 1. Mr. Emeka Okonkwo, Chairman. Mr. Oluwatosin Oshikoya, Managing Director. Mr. Kofi Kasim Garba, the shareholder. Mr. Chidi Agba, shareholder. Mr. Timothy Oyedele, shareholder. Mr. Philip Ofuoku, shareholder. And Mr. Abdul Bamidele, shareholder. A member of the company entitled to attend and vote at the meeting is entitled to appoint a proxy to attend and vote in his or her stead. A proxy need not be a member of the company. A proxy form is supplied with this notice. For completed proxy forms to be valid for the purpose of the meeting, they must be duly stamped by the Commissioner of Stamp Duties and deposited at the office of the Company Registrar, Cardinal Stone Registrars Limited, 355 to 357 Herbert Macaulay Way, Yaba, Lagos, or sent to registrars at cardinalstone.com not less than 48 hours before the meeting. The cost of stamping was borne by the company. Statutory Audit Committee. Any member may nominate a shareholder for election as a member of the Statutory Audit Committee by giving notice in writing of such nomination, attaching the curriculum vitae of the nominee to the Company Secretary at least 21 days before the annual general meeting. Shareholders are enjoined to note that the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria require members of the Statutory Audit Committee to have basic financial literacy and an ability to read financial statements. Closure of the register. The register of members and transfer books of the company were closed from 21st June 2021 to 25th June 2021, both days inclusive, for the purpose of preparing an updated register of members. Payment of dividend. If the dividend of 3 kobo per 1 naira ordinary share recommended by the Board of Directors is approved by members at the annual general meeting, the dividend payments will be made on today, 29th June 2021, to members whose names appeared in the register of members as at the close of business on the 18th of June 2021. 2020 financial statements web link. Shareholders can access the 2020 financial statements on the company's website using the link provided therein, by order of the board, dated this 8th day of June 2021.
I will now report the affairs of the company during the financial year under review. The statements of the chairman and managing director appear on pages 8 to 9 and 10 to 11 respectively of the 2020 annual reports and accounts which have already been circulated. To have more time to entertain and answer your questions on the annual report, may we, as in previous years, take both statements as read. The MD will, however, answer any questions you may have on its content. Please be informed that in exercise of the powers conferred on me by virtue of Section 248(1)A of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, I hereby call for a poll on items 1 to 4 of the meeting agenda. Thus, voting for these resolutions will be taken electronically. I therefore call on the registrar to explain the operation of the electronic voting pads handed to each shareholder for voting and the time frame for each voting session. Upon conclusion of each round of voting, the result will be projected on the screen for the benefit of our shareholders and online viewers. The resolutions being proposed are ordinary resolutions, and the majority of the votes of shareholders and proxies present is required for a resolution to be approved.
Thank you very much, Chairman. We have distributed real-time voting devices to all shareholders present. On the voting device, the first three numbers, 1, 2, 3, with color codes green, red, and orange. If you are voting in favor of a resolution, you select the number 1 button and then press the OK button to send in your vote. If you're voting against the resolution, you select the number 2 button on the voting device and you press the OK button to send in your vote. If you're abstaining from your resolution, you select the number 3 button and also press the OK button. The system only recognizes the last votes selected on the voting device. So if you want to change your mind, you are free during the 20 seconds to vote again using the voting device. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Registrar. So item number 1 under the ordinary business, approval of financial statements. Item number 1 on the agenda is to receive and adopt the audited financial statements for the period ended 31st December 2020, together with the directors, auditors, board appraisers, and statute audit committees reports thereon. The director's report and consolidated and separate statements of the financial position as of 31st December 2020, together with the consolidated and separate statements of profit and loss and other comprehensive income for the year ended on that day, have been circulated to members. I now call upon Mr. Babayomi Ajijola of Ernst & Young to read the auditor's report, which was made available to members with the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2020.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, distinguished shareholders, members of the Board of Directors, regulators present. My name is Babayomi Ajijola. I'm an audit partner from EY. Our auditor's report on the audited financial statements of UBN Property Company Plc is as contained on pages 23 to 25 of the annual report. I'll take the first 2 paragraphs and I'll move on to the last paragraph. We'll take the other parts of the report as read. Our opinion: we have audited the financial statements of UBN Property Company Plc, the company, set out on pages 26 to 65, which comprise the statement of financial position as at 31st December 2020, and the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, statement of changes in equity, and statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and notes to the financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of UBN Property Company Plc as at 31st December 2020 and of its financial performance and cash flows for the year then ended, and have been prepared in accordance with the International Financial Reporting Standards, the provisions of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, and the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria Act No. 6, 2011. Our report on the other legal and regulatory requirements as contained on page 25. In accordance with the requirements of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, we confirm that we have obtained all the information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit. In our opinion, proper books of accounts have been kept by the company, insofar as it appears from our examination of those books. The company's statement of financial position, statement of profit or loss, and other comprehensive income are in agreement with the books of accounts. This is signed by myself, Babayemi Ajijola from EY. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for that. In accordance with the provisions of Section 404, subsection 4 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the auditors submitted their reports to the Statutory Audit Committee, which duly examined the report and, being satisfied, rendered the certificate earlier circulated to all the shareholders. I now call on Mr. Kamorudin Oladoshu, Chairman of the Statutory Audit Committee, to present the committee's report.
In compliance with Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, we reviewed the financial statements of UBN Property Plc for the year ended 31st December 2020, and hereby states as follows. 1. The scope and planning of the audit were adequate in our opinion. The accounting and reporting policies of the company conform with the statutory requirements and agreed ethical practices. 3. The internal control and internal audit functions were operating effectively. 4. The external auditor's findings, as stated in the management letter, are being dealt with satisfactorily by the management. And 5. Related party balances and transactions have been disclosed in Note 31 to the financial statements in accordance with the requirement of the International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS. Signed on behalf of the committee by myself, Kamorudin Oladoshu. Other members of the committee are Mr. Remi Kolariwa, Mr. Nona Awo, and Mr. Adekunle Shonola, who served in this committee before he left. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Clause 34 of the Securities and Exchange Commission's Code of Corporate Governance for Public Companies, Principle 14.1 of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance, 2018, and Global Best Practices, require an annual board/directors review/appraisal, and the consultant's reports thereon should be presented at the annual general meeting. DCSL Corporate Services Limited appraised the board and directors, and being satisfied, rendered the report already circulated in the 2020 annual report and accounts to all shareholders. Mr. Ibrahim Alagbe will now read the board appraisal report for the financial year ended 31st December 2020.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and distinguished shareholders. I'll be reading our report on page 22 of the annual report. DCSL Corporate Services Limited was engaged as independent external consultants by UBN Property Company Plc to carry out an evaluation of the performance of the board of directors, that of its committees, the board chairman, and individual directors for the year ended 31st December 2020, in line with the provision of Principle 14.1 of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2018, as well as Global Best Practices on Corporate Governance. The appraisal entailed a review of the company's corporate and statutory documents, minutes of board and committee meetings, policies, and and other ancillary documents made available to us, and the administration of questionnaires to directors. The objective of the review was to ascertain the extent of compliance with corporate governance principles and the performance of the board in general. The company's corporate governance structures, policies, and processes were benchmarked against the provisions of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2018, Securities and Exchange Commission's Corporate Governance Guidelines 2021, Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, and international best practices. The evaluation covered the following key corporate governance themes. 1, board structure and composition. 2, strategy and planning. 3, board operations and effectiveness. 4, measuring and monitoring of performance. 5, risk management and compliance. 6, corporate citizenship. And 7, transparency and disclosure. The board has the responsibility for putting in place adequate corporate governance structures and practices and approving policies that will ensure the company carries on its business in accordance with its memorandum and articles of association, as well as in conformity with applicable laws, code guidelines, and regulations to guarantee sustainability. Upon the conclusion of the performance evaluation of the board, we confirm that the board and the company substantially complied with the provisions of the NCCG and SCGG, as well as best practice expectations on corporate governance. Details of our key findings and recommendations are contained in our detailed report. Yours faithfully, signed for DCSL Corporate Services Limited, Bisadiemi, Managing Director. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I now lay before you the annual report and financial statements for the financial year ended 31st December 2020, and we'll be pleased to answer any questions relating thereto before we proceed to the next item of business. We will now take questions from the shareholders. To ensure that we give the right answers, please refer to the page of the annual report and accounts to which your questions relate. I also enjoin members to be brief in their comments and restrict questions to 1 or 2 to give other shareholders the opportunity to speak. The floor is open now. Thank you. So I will now proceed with item number 1 on the agenda, which is to receive the audited financial statements for the financial year ended 31st December 2020. I hereby propose that the audited financial statements for the financial year ended 31st December 2020, together with the directors, auditors, board appraisals, and the statutory audit committee's reports thereon be received and adopted. Would someone please second the motion? Thank you for that.
Please mention your name.
Please give him the microphone so that he can mention his name.
I'm Timothy Oyedele. I second the motion.
Thank you very much. I hereby put the resolution to the meeting and request that we vote now. The voting period is 20 seconds. Registrars, could you please announce the voting results?
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Following the results announced by the registrar.
Sir.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the resolution to approve the financial statement for the financial year ended 31st December 2020, together with the report of the directors, auditors, board appraisal, and statutory audit committee, we have a total of 100% of total votes cast, both in person at this meeting and by proxy, in favor of the resolution. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Also to read the number of units, we have 3,080,173,040 units of shares of UBN Property Company Plc.
Thank you. Thank you for that additional detail. So following the result announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the resolution has been duly carried. I now go to the item number 2, which is declaration of a dividend. Item number 2 on the agenda is the declaration of a dividend for the financial year ended December 31st, 2020. I hereby propose that a dividend payment in the sum of 168,792,481.53 kobo, translating to 3 kobo per 1 naira ordinary share of the company, subject to withholding tax, to be paid on Tuesday, 29 June 2021, to shareholders whose names appear in the Register of Members at the close of business on the 18th of June 2021, be, and is hereby approved. Will someone please second the motion? Please approach the microphone and state your name for the records. Thank you.
My name is Kamaruddin Oladiso. I hereby second the motion.
Thank you very much. I hereby put the resolution to the meeting and request that we vote now. The voting period is 20 seconds. Registrar, could you please announce the voting results?
Thank you very much, Chairman. For the resolution to declare dividend for the financial year ended 31st December 2020, we have a total of 100% of total vote cast in person at this meeting and by proxy votes in favor of the resolution for 3,074,713,040 units of shares of UBN Property Company Plc.
Thank you very much. So following that result announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the resolution has been duly carried. Item number 3A, election of directors. The resolution is for the election of Mrs. Olajumoke Odulaja and I as directors of the company, having retired at this annual general meeting, being the first general meeting since our appointment. Premised on the above, I will now call on a member to move a motion to appoint Mr. Remy Kolariwa to act as chairman for the purpose of this agenda item, and thereafter step down as the chairman of this meeting. Would someone please rise and move the motion? Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
I move the motion, but I must also say that this is novel for me, because if he was seated on the high table, all you needed to do was to pass the mic to him and ask him to do the assignment.
Okay. Yes,
but we learn every day. Thank you.
Thank you for those observations.
Now, on account of COVID, we can't accommodate more than 3 ministers.
Okay. Okay. Will somebody please rise and second the motion? Please approach the microphone and state your details for the records. Thank you.
My name is Ab. I second the motion.
Thank you very much, sir. Will those in favor of the motion please signify by raising their hands? Okay. Will those against the motion please signify by raising their hands? I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried.
Trust me, eh? The next item on the agenda is the selection of the following directors who retired at this annual general meeting, being the first general meeting since their appointment. As required by the codes of corporate governance in Nigeria, the profiles on directors retiring at this meeting by law are provided on pages 6 and 7 of the annual report and accounts. I shall now call on the secretary to read the names of the retiring directors.
The following directors retire at this annual general meeting, being the first annual general meeting since their appointment: Mr. Emeka Okonkwo and Mrs. Olajumoke Odulaja.
In line with the Corporate Affairs Commission approval to hold the meeting by proxies, the retiring directors will be elected individually. Would someone please rise and propose a motion for the election of Mr. Emeka Okonkwo? Thank you.
My name is Timothy Oyedele. I hereby propose the reappointment of Mr. Emeka Okonkwo.
Thank you. Will someone please rise and second the motion?
My name is Philip Ofoku. I hereby second the motion.
Thank you very much. I hereby put the motion to the meeting and request that we vote now. The voting period is 20 seconds. Registrars, please announce the voting results.
Thank you very much. For the resolution to re-elect Mr. Emeka Okonkwo as director, we have a total of 100% of total votes cast in person at this meeting and by proxy votes in favor of the resolution for 3,088,413,040 units of shares of UBN Property Company Plc.
That's 3,080,000,000.
80 million.
13 million and 40 shares.
Okay, 3,080,413,040 units of shares of UBN Property Company Plc. Thank you.
Thank you. Following the results announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried. Would someone please rise and propose a motion for the election of Mrs. Olajumoke Odulaja?
Thank you. My name is Bamidele Abdul. I propose that Mrs. Olajumoke Odulaja be re-elected.
Thank you. Will someone please rise and second the motion?
I am Timothy Oyedele. I second the motion.
Thank you. I hereby put the motion to the meeting and request that we vote now. The voting period is 20 seconds. Okay, registrars, please announce the voting results.
Thank you very much, Chairman. For the resolution to re-elect Mrs. Okoye as director, we have a total of 100% of total votes cast both in person at this meeting and by proxy. Votes in favor of the resolution for 3,075,813,040 units of shares of UBN Property Company Plc.
Thank you. Following the results announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried. Having concluded my mandate and fulfilling my promise not to take over the seat of the chair, I hereby call on Mr. Okoye to take over the conduct of the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the election of director. As required by the Code of Corporate Governance in Nigeria, the profile of the director retiring by rotation at this meeting are on pages 7 of the annual report and accounts. I shall now call on the secretary to read her name.
The name of the director who retires and seeks re-election in pursuance of Article 27 of the company's memo Articles of Association is Mrs. Obiaku Akwiwu.
Would someone please propose a motion for the re-election of Mrs. Obiaku Akwiwu?
My name is Kamaruddin Oladosu. I hereby propose the election of Mrs. Obiaku Neze Akiwo Nwadike as a director of the company.
Thank you. Will someone please second the motion? Please approach the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Bamidele Abdul. I second the motion.
Thank you very much, sir. I now hereby put the motion to the meeting and request that we vote now. The voting period is 20 seconds. Could the registrars please announce the voting results?
Thank you very much, Chairman. For the resolution to re-elect Mrs. Obiaku Akwiwu Nwadike, who retires at this meeting and is eligible for re-election as director, we have a total of 100% of total votes cast in person at this meeting and by proxy votes in favor of the resolution for 3,083,313,040 units of shares of UBN Property Company Plc.
Following that result announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried. We now go to item number 4, which is the remuneration of the auditors. Item 4 on the agenda is fixing the auditor's remuneration. In accordance with section 4012 of the Companies Allied Matters Act of 2020, the retiring auditor, Messrs. Ernst & Young, are being reappointed without any resolution being passed. But the Act requires that the auditor's remuneration be fixed by the company in the general meeting or in such manner as the company in the general meeting may determine under section 408 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. I hereby move that the directors be hereby authorized to fix the remuneration and the expenses of the auditors for the year ending 31st December 2021. Will someone please second this motion?
My name is Timothy Oyedele. I second the motion.
Thank you very much for that. I hereby put the resolution to the meeting and request that we vote now. The voting period is 20 seconds. Registrars, could you please announce the voting results?
Thank you very much, Chairman. For the resolution to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the auditor, we have a total of 100% of total vote cast in person at this meeting and by proxy votes in favor of the resolution for 3,080,163,040 units of shares of UBN Property Company Plc. Thank you.
Following the results announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the resolution has been duly carried. Item number 5, disclosure of the remuneration of the company's managers. Section 2 period of CAMA 2020 requires the disclosure of the remuneration of the company's managers be made at this meeting. This disclosure is provided in the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2020. We now go to item number 6, which is Statutory Audit Committee election. Item 6 on the agenda is the election of the members of the Statutory Audit Committee. In accordance with Section 404, subsection 6 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the company secretary receives names of the shareholders' nominees for election into the Statutory Audit Committee. The shareholders currently on the Statutory Audit Committee are also subject to re-election annually. I now call on the secretary to read the names of the elected shareholders on the Statutory Audit Committee and the names of the nominees.
The shareholders who are current members of the Statutory Audit Committee and seeking re-election are Mr. Kamarudin Oladosu and Mr. Nona Ao. Pursuant to Section 404, subsection 6 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the following nominations were received within the statutory time limit. Mr. Kamarudin Oladosu, nominated by Equity Capital Solutions Limited. Mr. Nona Ao, nominated by Pilsa Capital Markets Associates Limited. And Mr. Timothy Oyedele, nominated by Mr. Orishe Randall. By virtue of Section 249, subsection 3 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, there shall be no right to demand a poll on the election of members of the Statutory Audit Committee under Section 404 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act. Therefore, the current shareholders' representatives on the Statutory Audit Committee and the only nominee are hereby respectively presented for return and/or appointment to the Statutory Audit Committee till the next annual general meeting in line with provisions of Section 249, subsection 3 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020.
In line with Section 404, subsection 3 of the Act, the Board of Directors has resolved to appoint 2 of its members to represent the Board of Directors on the Statutory Audit Committee. They are 1, Mr. Remy Kolarinwa, and number 2, Mrs. Olajumoke Odulaja. I hereby move that 1, Mr. Kamoruddin Olanusu, 2, Mr. Nona Awo, 3, Mr. Timothy Oyedele be returned and appointed as shareholders' representatives on the Statutory Audit Committee pursuant to Section 404, subsection 3 of the Company and Allied Matters Act until the conclusion of the annual general meeting, in addition to the following board nominees. Number 1, Mr. Remy Kolarinwa, and number 2, Mrs. Olajumoke Odulaja. Would someone please second this motion? Please.
Thank you. My name is Bamidele Abdul. I second the motion.
Thank you very much. Would those in favor of this motion please signify by raising their hands? Thank you very much for that. Would those against this motion please signify by raising their hands? Okay. I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried. This concludes the ordinary business of the day. Directors' remuneration. The Board of Directors would like to inform the shareholders that the approval of the director's remuneration is outside the scope of this meeting as prescribed by the Corporate Affairs Commission, same being special business. However, the Board of Directors wishes to inform the shareholders that the director's remuneration for the financial year ending 31st December 2021 shall be the same amount approved by the shareholders for the financial year ended 31st December 2019. Closing remarks. Distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Board of Directors, I would like to thank you very much for your time and your contributions. I hereby declare the meeting closed.